there's still a lot of them that have zero AI. They're not even in the NLU era. Why would a big bank have a chatbot in the bottom right corner instead of being able to actually have that service customers like a branch manager would? It's funny, they actually, by them being bad, have trained us to have bot speak. TLDR, the whole thing. The big shift from traditional conversation design to agentic is you are now designing style guides.
Welcome back to Humans Talking Agents. Maximilian here at Voiceflow, and we also have
Braden, also from Voiceflow.
Okay, for today's episode, I have a controversial question that I want to unpack with you. And that question is, why do most chatbots suck? I guess we can also get into...
It'll be a short episode today. They're not using Voiceflow. This has been great.
Okay. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
No, I think it's like... there's a couple reasons. I think one is like the tech. I think honestly, it's such a big topic. We should probably just break it out.
Sure.
There's the technology. There is the company expectation and company process, but then there's also the consumer expectation. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I'll talk about the technology first. The tech has changed so much for chatbots. Now AI agents, previously assistants. Like we have gone from Clippy to having intense and like scripted dialogues to now having having LLM responses with scripted logic to now having AI agents where it's like agentic AI driven logic plus decision making plus responses. And so like, it's been such a big transition.
And quick question before we go into that. And when we talk about the technology, are we talking about like the underlying technology or the UI that builders have access to, or both?
No, yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like basically, I'm gonna use bots as the overarching technology. Have three components. There is understanding what the user said. There is understanding what to do next, and there is like saying or doing the thing. And each of those three components has been replaced at different times with AI. So, like pre-2022, November 30th, 2022, ChatGPT. Basically everything was natural language understanding, which was AI, and still is AI, for understanding the user, but then the action and the response were scripted. Before NLU models, everything was scripted. So like pre-NLU, you couldn't freeform type to a bot. When you call a big bank today, there's still a lot of them that have zero AI. They're not even in the NLU era, let alone the LM or let alone the agentic era. They're like 4 iterations behind, which is for some people is fine. Like, press 1, press 2. Mm-hmm. That is like, there's no understanding of the user. It's literally press 1, press 2. That then brings you to a decision point that is scripted. Then that brings you to a scripted response.
Right.
And so it looks like a big tree, right? So that's like zero AI. Then NLU comes out, and now it's like you can say what you want, but then it's still going to decide what to do next and what to say. Then LLMs came out, and they weren't smart enough yet for logic and like decision making. So then it was understand what the user says was AI, and the response was AI, but the decide what to do next was not. Mm-hmm. And then with agents, now the whole thing is understand what the user wants, understand what to do next based off that, understand what to say. The whole stack is AI. And so really it's like you've got like a gradient of technologies, and that's why most chatbots suck, is because most folks just haven't progressed through that sort of spectrum of technology. But then what's funny is like that's the tech side. Then there's like the social behavior side that gradient creates, which is for the consumer, they have been trained to use crappy chatbots and crappy voice bots. And actually,
sorry, I'm just going to pause you right there for a second. As we go down this gradient, what is it that is sucking about chatbots?
That's a good question. I think when people say suck, it's like it lacks conversational fluidity. So that's going to be something like you get, imagine a big tree and you made a decision 3 turns ago where you actually didn't realize until you're 3 turns deep that you went down the wrong path. Mm-hmm. And so when you listen to like an IVR, like a phone system, and it's like, would you like to hear all the menu options again? most of us, if we realize we've went too far down the tree, we hang up and we recall because there's no way to go back.
Right. Single directional.
Yeah, you're drilling down, and you might be 10 minutes in, and you find out you got to the wrong path, and then you're like, oh, I gotta go all the way back up, and so you go back up the tree. So conversational fluidity is one. Two is the understanding is often really bad. Of like, okay, you hear this all the time. When we chat to ChatGPT, I'm speaking like I am now to a human. I'm like, just say whatever I want because I know it's good, right? When I'm using like Alexa, I'm like, Alexa, play Spotify. Like I have been taught it's supposed to be like voice and conversation is supposed to be the human interface, but these bots are so bad at understanding and processing like any sort of ambiguity that it's funny. They actually, by them being bad, have trained us to have bot speak. Like actually think about it. Like if you use Siri or something, you are not talking like you would a human. Yes, you're using the language of a human, but like your tone changes, your phrasing changes because we intuitively now know we have to use bot language, which is simple and to the point, and it's not conversational because they just can't handle it, right?
Right.
Yeah, just imagine for everyone listening, imagine you're going to go ask Siri to do something. You're going to do that in a very different way than if you were to ask a human to do something. That's like the bots have trained the humans to speak to the bots because of how bad the bots are. So that's like that's the second thing. The third is like the bots often they just can't do anything. And it's really frustrating for the user because in a visual interface, when you look at a mobile app, it's like very clear what the mobile app can do. It's got a button for this and a button for that. But with a chatbot, because chat interfaces, the capabilities are hidden. Meaning like, because it's like conversation tree, right? When you're in the tree, you don't know what the tree is going to look like at the end. You only know the current step you're on. And so it's really frustrating because you don't know what it can do. And so you end up like having trial and error. You might spend 10 minutes with the bot only to realize that the bot can't do what you need to do. And then you just wasted all this time. Right. And so there's like frustration with capabilities of like, I don't know if it can do what I need it to do. There's frustration with multi-step tasks and multi-step questions. So a bot might have an answer for how much is this car? And a bot might have an answer for does the car come in red? But the bot in a traditional system does not know how much is the red car, right? It doesn't know how to combine the information together because it was rigidly just like scripted to you can answer A or B, but not a combination of A and B.
Right.
Back in the day, 3 years ago, multi-intent and entity like capture and understanding was a big thing. Like we would get asked all the time at Voiceflow, like, can you guys do multi-intent capture? And what they mean is customers often come in and they say, hey, can I get a large coffee and can you add like sprinkles on it? In a traditional system, because you had to break out buckets of understanding, it's called an intent. There would be one intent for I want to order a coffee, and there'd be one for I want to add a topping. And a lot of systems could not handle both at the same time. So it'd be like, whoa. I can just help you order a coffee, or I can help you add sprinkles to your existing coffee. I can't process this.
Right.
And so that's how the traditional systems work. But all of that gets solved with agents. But again, people are very much like the average company that's big enough where you and I interact with it on like a weekly basis is like much further down the gradient. And like that's a whole different episode on like risk and like, yes, you get a lot of benefits with agents, but they can also hallucinate and like, they cost a lot of money. Like there's all that stuff. That's a whole different episode. But yeah, those are generally the reasons is like opaqueness of capabilities, bad understanding, which leads to like bot talk.
Well, what
what
I think is interesting is when we're talking about the kind of like the flow chart or the tree, conversational tree, and the single directioned conversation. I guess a big shift of conversation design with agents comes from the fact that you can then be inside an agentic flow, inside an actual agent step, and have that conversation sort of ongoing until you hit an exit path.
Yeah.
Or you can go up the tree, as we're talking about it. So is there, like we've been talking about the technology gradient, and we've also been talking about how consumers or customers have been trained into a way of speaking.
Yeah.
How about the people implementing the technology that have maybe been trained into a way of building?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is hard because some companies want to transition, but they are in like a 5-year contract with a vendor, or often in the large companies, what happens is they conversational AI is like not seen as like it's not seen as important. It is basically just a way to remove costs from the system. It often gets thrown in for free. Like it's like an add-on to your contact center product. And it's like, okay, here's your like, chatbot in the bottom right, you're good to go. And so, which is like, in my opinion, the totally like wrong way to view building an agent. Because like, I don't know, like if your website provider threw in a crappy mobile app, which is what used to happen actually back in the day, like, would you deploy that to customers? Like, yeah, it might be better than not having a mobile app, but like, if there's better solutions out there, like, now people are mobile first, like, why wouldn't you be like agent first, right? Like, why would a big bank have a chatbot in the bottom right corner instead of being able to actually have that service customers like a branch manager would?
Right.
So I think there's a mentality that I think needs to shift, and folks are getting there. I also think too, like, it's just really hard to lift and shift technology. Like, these systems are so big, hundreds of intents that need to be migrated over to an agentic system, and then you get into like the know-how gap. Like, how do you do that, right? I've been one of my goals at Voiceflow is to help conversation designers who have been sort of trained in classical conversation design, which is typically flow charting of the decision trees and the responses with the NLU model. So basically, like, traditional conversation design is like you have a Visio, it became Voiceflow, it sort of became the standard there, but like you would have like an intent, and then that intent would lead to a workflow, which is like your flowchart. And then in each of those like nodes on the flowchart, you would have the response. And like that's traditional conversation design. That's now shifted to agents, but like it's such a big change. Like the flowchart doesn't exist anymore. The flowchart is now, it exists, but it's not all the discrete logic steps. That's all in the prompt, right? So before, it used to say something like this. Let's say I have like a refund flow and I need 3 things. I need name of the user, I need their card number, and I need the product that they need a refund for. Before, it used to be like you would flow out for a simple conversation design, because there's much more complex ways to do this. You'd have like, okay, step 1, ask their name. Step 2, ask their card number. Step 3, ask like the product they want a refund for. And then more complex conversation design in a traditional system would be like, you would design the response for what happens if they give you A and B and C, A and B, A and C, B and C. Like, you'd give every possible combination of responses.
Yeah.
And then you would flow that out. Now with an agent, you literally go like, hey, here's the API to process a refund. Here are the 3 things you need. That's it. But that is a big shift. And to do that prompt properly in a way that feels really good is like as much work as the flow. Actually, it's less work, but I'm trying to be gracious here. It's less work, but it's like a completely new system.
Like a new way of thinking about it too, right? Because I'm just wondering, when you open yourself up to an agentic workflow, there's so much. I'm even thinking of I'm like thinking about your diagram here too. In an agentic workflow, you can have every agent aware of every other agent.
Yeah, basically like the entire shift. If I was to like TLDR the whole thing, the big shift from traditional conversation design to agentic conversation design is you are no longer designing individual responses and steps. You are now designing style guides. Buttons in Voiceflow is the best example. Historically, we had a buttons step. We still do on our design product, just not the agent's product. We would have a design button step. And the designer would have to say, I want a button here, I want a button here, I want a button here, I want this label, this label, this label. Now you spend that same time you would do like placing every single button, and instead you just design a single style guide for, hey agent, here's when and how to use buttons. And then you allow the agent to make that decision that you were making previously. Like, you were the agent previously. Like, you were choosing where and when to use the buttons and what labels it was going to have. But now you as the designer are empowered to like delegate that work out to the agent, and you spend the time crafting the style guide for buttons. And that gets applied across the whole conversation. That like same framework of like the designer goes from doing every minute task and variation to, I'm going to spend time designing the system that will then go and actually run at runtime. So that's like the big change, but it is a big change, right? People were so used to that gets applied across everything. Personas. People used to write every single response. Is this matching our brand guide and persona? Now it's you actually just write a brand guide and persona and give it to the agent. We don't use emojis. We talk concisely. We speak in this language. We don't speak in this language. You spend the time on the guide and you give it to the agent, which is scary because you do give up a little bit of autonomy. But if you write a really crisp, and it's the same thing as like onboarding an employee, right? Like if you just said, hey, make customers happy and hey, can you just generate revenue? And you'd be like, how do I do that? But if I say, hey, can you generate revenue? And like, here's how you do it. Step A, B, C. Like, yeah, you might have some you might have some like calls where I go, ooh, I didn't like that customer call. Like, Max didn't do a great job there. But then I would go in, I would give you feedback. You have to treat the agents the same way of like, you read the transcript, you go, ooh, like, I didn't really like how that like agent interacted. So I'm going to go change the style guide. I'm going to go change the prompt so that it gets better over time. Like when you switch that mindset from like, I do the work to I delegate the work and like, I'm a agent designer, I think it helps people kind of get over like what is the change? Well, that is the change.
Right. And it's okay. So if you're kind of slowly taking steps back in terms of now going from control to delegation to, would there be, reason in saying that there is a shift for agent builders to be taking a step back further and now just analyzing what is my process and maybe even making shifts to the business process itself?
It's a good question. Like how high level do you go, right?
Yeah.
I think the entire progression of technology is basically just going higher and higher level. But I don't think anywhere yet you can just kind of let it run on its own. I think you can have less supervision over time, but you still need some supervision, right? Like you might have the best employee in the world, but at a certain point, if you choose to like pivot the company, you can't like not talk to them. Like they're not going to figure that out. Like you still need some level of human supervision, even though like they may be able to run the day-to-day totally fine. They're achieving their goals totally fine. You still need to guide where you want to take things. And like, I just, until you get to like AI CEOs and like, I'm out of the job. Like, I just don't think you're going to have that same like level I don't think you're gonna have that same level of autonomy anywhere other than now, like it's one level up and you can just design the agent to talk with customers instead of you building every specific thing. Right. I don't think we'll get to a place of like the agent is building itself without any supervision. I think you'll get human in the loop self-agent iteration. And we've talked about that before. I think for sure that's where things are going to go. Bad transcript comes in, low CSAT, agent does the research. Why was that bad? Oh, I didn't have this knowledge base answer. I searched the company wiki, drafted up a new knowledge base answer, but I don't push it live immediately. I like then ask my human supervisor, the conversation designer, be like, hey, is this good? Like, can I add this? And then, yep, okay, great. Now it's in production. So I think you still need that human in the loop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess so I want to take a little bit of a future forward look here too. And we've touched on a whole bunch of the different ways that you can think about agent design. What are the kind of condensed measurable steps that you can take as a builder now to make chatbots or agents not suck?
I think even though the technology is kind of a gradient, you just have to go full agent. Like, you can do hybrid right now, which is like where you have a mix of directed dialogue and agentic dialogue. And I think you can do that once you know what you're doing. But I actually think like the best way to learn, at least from what I've seen with customers, is like go full agentic. You don't ship it to production full agentic, but you need to like take the thing that you built scripted, build it fully agentic, and then you can figure out, okay, where do I want to scale this back and add directed dialogue in? But like it's kind of like you have to burn the boats a little bit when you're learning and like just not allow yourself to fall back too intense. Don't allow yourself to fall back to directed dialogue when you're trying to learn this stuff because it's too easy, especially if this is your day job and you got to get things done. We're always going to fall back to what we know. It's like just human nature. And so like you need to go all in on trying it and doing it that way. And then you can kind of like start getting a little crazy with some of the hybrid architectures that you can do, which have real value. And I think that's the main thing that people are launching today at like, true enterprise scale. But I think if your question was on the learning process, I think you got to like build a full agent framework, and then you can figure out how to wrap the other stuff in.
I like the way that you say that. Even the way when I think about learning at all too, is that like you start with a certain rule set that you're comfortable with, and you have to expand yourself out to what technology is here now. What can I do? And maybe that's not necessarily the end goal, but you'll get a sense of, okay, well, what rules made sense? You'll understand where you came from much better.
You need to learn. Yeah, it's like when people ask me like, how do I learn to code?
Yeah.
I always tell people like the first step of learning how to code, you can take some like basic practice courses and stuff for sure, like, you know, Code Academy and all these things. But like, you can't just learn to code. You need to learn. I think you need to have a goal in mind of what you're trying to build, and that's going to direct your learning. Like, I can't just be like, learn Mandarin. And you know what I mean? Like, you need to like, and this is why all these teaching softwares use like phrases, right? Because the goal is to learn phrases, and in doing so, you learn like pinyin and the character, like all this stuff, right? And so like learning the code's the same way. Like I'm always like, build a calculator. You know what I mean? Like build a little UI for the calculator, and like have it just be a function calculator, and like that gives you a goal that's going to then push you to learn all the different concepts as you go. Same thing with agents. If I just said, hey, learn to prompt, like you're not going to really know how to actually direct that learning until you say like, I'm going to build what I maybe built in a traditional way, and now I'm going to do this with agents. And so like then you have a goal you're working towards, and like you're figuring that out. And then you can also compare the two, right? Because then you can look at, wow, like after a couple hours building an agent, I look back at my directed dialogue and I go, that's like far better, right? And like, you know, yeah, there's some places where it's like not working like the way I want it to. And then you can be like, okay, now should that be a hybrid? Should that be a directed dialogue? Should that be, do I need more guardrails there? Like you'll kind of learn what you need to do from there. But learning anything, this is like very general like thoughts at this point.
This is a great one though.
Learning anything is like, it has to be goal oriented to learn to learn effectively.
And even on that point too, it's like having a solution you're working towards and then reverse engineering it from there.
Yeah, totally. Like literally everything I've ever like learned. Maybe it was just personal advice. I don't know, but like it's always been like I didn't learn to code effectively until I knew what I wanted to build.
Right.
And then it was like learning the toolkit to achieve the goal. But yeah, same thing with language. Like a lot of people learn languages because they're like, I'm going on exchange in China, so I'm gonna learn Mandarin. You know what I mean? Like I'm, you know, going to France, like I'm gonna go learn French. It's just, you know, very hard to learn something when it's like just an ambiguous thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Very, very generic today. We went super deep and super wide.
But I think also it's good that we came back out there because that's an inspiring place to leave off the episode. And well, I hope that that encourages you watching to go out there and build and have a project in mind and create a solution, try something agentic.
Yeah.
And kind of get creative.
Right? Get creative.
Well, thank you so much for watching. We'll be back very soon.
Sweet.